All right, today we're going to dive into a really powerful way to understand and replace those self-defeating patterns that can keep us feeling stuck. All of this is based on the amazing work of Dr. Lane Lasater, a now retired clinical psychologist.
You know that feeling, right? Where you find yourself in the same kind of frustrating situation, maybe with the same type of person or in a similar kind of job, and you just think, how did I end up here again? If you're nodding along, you're definitely not alone. And there's a very real reason this happens.
Okay, I know what you might be thinking. Change everything? That sounds huge. But hang on, it's not about getting overwhelmed. It's about realizing that these patterns we're talking about aren't just little habits we can tweak. They're deep, ingrained systems, and to really change them, we need a whole new playbook.
So where do these frustrating loops even come from? Well, here's the most important thing to get. They are not character flaws. You're not broken. They're actually survival tools that have just passed their expiration date. They all have an origin story, and it starts a long, long time ago.
I want you to think way back. As kids, especially in families where things were complicated, we all had to come up with strategies to get our basic needs met. You know, things like getting attention, feeling loved, having some control. These strategies were the best we could come up with at the time. The only problem is we pack those same tools for our adult lives, and, well, they don't really work anymore. In fact, they usually start to backfire.
And this chart just lays it all out so clearly. Dr. Lasater shows us exactly how this works. That deep need for recognition you had as a kid, yeah, that can easily turn into this relentless, compulsive drive to achieve as an adult. That craving for affection, it can become codependency. These patterns we live out today are really just echoes of those old, unmet needs.
Okay, so if these patterns are running so deep, how in the world do we start to see them? Well, this is where Dr. Lasater gives us a fantastic tool. It's called the Personal Process Inventory, and it's all about shining a light on what's been running on autopilot. Because let's be real, you can't change what you can't see.
And this is really the heart of the matter. We walk into our adult relationships and jobs with these old, unconscious expectations from our childhood. We have this leftover sense of being powerless. So, without even realizing it, we end up picking situations that feel familiar, even if they're not healthy, and we end up replaying the exact same story, hoping for a different ending.
Let's make this real. Take a look at Brittany's story here. Across the board, with her family, her boyfriend, at her job, she had a clear idea of her job. But she also had a very clear idea of what their job was supposed to be. And when they didn't do their part, her reaction was always to try harder to change them. The result? Just more depression, anger, and frustration for her. Does any of that sound familiar?
So, your turn. Just take a second and imagine this chart with your name at the top. If you were being totally honest, what would it say? What are the unspoken job descriptions you've been handing out to yourself and to the people in your life?
All right, once you've spotted the old pattern, what's next? Well, this is the best part. It's not about getting stuck analyzing the past. It's about getting proactive and writing a brand new script, a new set of rules for your life.
So let's kick it off with a really common one, compulsive achievement. Meet Justin. His entire life was built on this belief that if he just succeeded enough, if he hit that next goal, he would finally feel happy and fulfilled.
Now look at his new rules. These aren't just vague wishes like work less. Nope, these are concrete, measurable actions. A 50-hour work week, period. He had to literally schedule friendship and fun into his life to build an identity outside of his job title. That's how he started to find the real fulfillment that work alone was never going to give him.
Next up, we have Ashley, and her pattern is another big one, codependency. You probably know this cycle. It's pouring all of your time and energy and care into people who just can't or won't give that same investment back.
But look at the power in these new rules. This is basically a declaration of self-worth. She decided to invest in relationships that were a two-way street, to actually honor her own needs and to let go of trying to make someone else care. It's a huge shift from looking for validation outside to building strength inside.
All right, now for Joseph. His pattern was something called generalized rebellion. This is the person who feels a constant, burning need to fix every problem and fight every injustice, often jumping into battles they just can't win.
So Joseph's new guidelines are all about learning to pick his battles. He started to see his anger not as a call to charge into battle, but as a warning sign, a signal to stop and ask himself, wait a minute, is this really my fight to fight?
It's about saving his energy for what he can actually change.
Now let's look at Elizabeth's pattern, the casualty syndrome. This one is rooted in this deep-seated fantasy that someday someone is going to ride in on a white horse and rescue you from all your problems. And that fantasy keeps you from tapping into your own power.
Wow. I mean, these new rules are a masterclass in taking your power back. Elizabeth moved from passively waiting to be saved to actively steering her own life. She had to let go of that rescue fantasy to finally realize that she was the hero she'd been waiting for all along.
And finally, let's talk about Jacob. His pattern was under responsibility. This is all about avoiding accountability, bending the rules, and always expecting other people to make exceptions or clean up the mess.
You know what changed for Jacob? The people in his life stopped enabling him, and his new rules are all about building genuine integrity. He eventually learned that the cheap thrill of getting away with something is nothing compared to the deep, solid self-worth you feel from simply being a person who does what they say they're going to do.
Okay, I know that was a ton of information we just covered, but the really amazing thing here is that the roadmap for change is actually incredibly clear. It's not about doing a million things at once. It's about taking the first couple of really important steps.
And this is what it boils down to. Just 2 steps. First, you use the personal process inventory to look backward with honesty and finally see the pattern. Then, you write your new recovery guidelines to look forward with intention and create your new path. See the problem, then create the solution. Simple as that.
And the best part is you do not have to figure this all out from scratch. Dr. Lasater has made these exact, fillable exercises available for everyone on his website. I really recommend you check it out. It's an incredible way to put these ideas into real practice in your own life.
So I'll leave you with this one question. Now that you've seen how these patterns are built, and more importantly, how they can be rewritten, what's that old story you've been playing on a loop? What's the one you're finally ready to put down so you can start writing something brand new?